Take 47. Welcome back to Getting to Green. My name is Kevin, and today we're going to be doing some configuration stuff. Now, this stuff not a lot of fun to do, but it makes your life so much easier. And the good thing is you only really have to do it one time per project, and then you can probably go back to the project, see what you did, and get it working from there. And it's pretty simple. Honestly, it is. Once you start getting into the weeds, it gets a little bit more complicated, but we're not going to go that deep. We just want it for very basic style changes and stuff like that. So what we're going to look into is Eslint and Prettier. We're going to combine those two, and it's just going to make our job here so much nicer and so much easier, and things are going to look so much prettier. So let's dive into it. So if you do like a quick Google search, you're going to see there's a bunch of places that you could get like information on how to get all of this running and stuff like that. So like Medium has one where you can get Eslint, Prettier, Vue, and VS Code all running. This was recently updated just in February of this year. And you can run through all that. There's one at Redberry. They have stuff in here about PHP even, which is pretty cool. This one kind of utilizes Vue CLI. I think I saw something about PHP in here, right? It doesn't matter. And then there's one here for the tech blog. Oh, this one was the one with the PHP. Never mind. That's PHP. This also does everything for us as far as Vue 3 stuff. So you can find all of this. This is Vue School. This is the one I went up following for the most part. But yeah, you can follow all of these. But the best way to go, honestly, is just to actually follow what's going on within their own personal website. So Prettier and Eslint, they're going to help you tremendously. So if we get started with Eslint, we're going to actually ask it to initialize it, right? And so I'm just going to copy this and paste it right inside here. So npm is going to go out. It's going to create an Eslint config file for us, which is really nice. It's going to ask you what you want. You could say to check syntax only, to find problems, or to even fix and enforce them, right? I'm just going to stick with the second one there. We're going to use JavaScript modules because we're doing import exports, and we're using Vue.js. Now this one, it says no and yes. I can't figure out how to select yes or no. I think it's, enter and escape. So yes for enter, escape for no. I'm going to hit enter. And then where does this code run? It's for the browser. And what do we want for the file? I want a JavaScript file. And yes, I want to install all those now using Yarn. That's why it doesn't matter that we're using npm, just to kind of get that going. If you try running that with Yarn, it just sees Yarn init and tries to start doing stuff within your packaged JSON file. Okay, so now we have an Eslint file. Pretty cool. We didn't have to do anything for that. So moving on along, we have Eslint essentially ready for us. And you can go through here, you can configure a bunch of stuff and getting all this and whatnot. But we want to have Yarn. We want to have Prettier also. So I'm going to say right here, Yarn add dev exact Prettier. Copy that, just run over here, paste that in. And that's going to run, and now we have Prettier. And let's see what else. So we can also echo an empty object into a Prettier RC file. Now, I'm using VS Code, and for some reason, it didn't like it being a JSON file. It did like, however, just being the RC file. So I'm just going to copy that part, paste that in here, and hit enter. And that's just going to create our Prettier RC file, which is just an empty object. All right, so now we could say Yarn Prettier, right? This is going to go through everything. Not going to worry about that. I'm going to ignore this right now. And yep, there's also like a Prettier ignore file. So if you don't want to jump into like your build or coverage and stuff like that where it doesn't matter, you're not really doing those, you could. We're not going to worry about that right now. and you can check and blah, blah, blah. Eslint. So Eslint has a config prettier. So this one, if we open this up in a new tab, yep. So we have this extends and we have prettier. So we're going to say we want this Eslint config. We're going to use yarn again. So yarn add dev Eslint config prettier. This is going to do all that stuff, install that, and we can go back to Eslint, and in it extends, we could just say prettier. Pretty cool. You can actually just see something happen right now. Look like it's changed a few things, but let's go back, see what else we can do here. We have Eslint, there's style lint, there's integrations, and all of this stuff. So you can keep going through here and find what you want. This tutorial for View School, down at the bottom, after you get so far, they do have some kind of interesting scripts here. So we're going to copy these. And we're just going to be using this to kind of test that we made sure that everything is up and running correctly. So let's go to package, and up at the top, we can add some more scripts. So we have lint and format. And just to make sure that these are where we want them to go, instead of source, this is resources/js. Same thing with this, resources/js. Save that. And now we can get a little bit more into the, let's go back to here. And in Prettier, you have a bunch of stuff on the side, but here's all of your options. You have your print width, your tabs, tab width, semicolons. So you can go through all of this. I have a bunch that I already like, and we're going to just kind of go through those. So tab width, we'll say 2, let's stick with 2. And then I want arrow parens, always. True, so it always puts a semicolon. Quotes, single quotes, true. I want everything to be a single quote. Let's see what else we have. Bracket spacing, definitely want this, true. Bracket same line, false. And what those are, if you go over here, we have our bracket spacing. There's the space left and right of whatever's in a bracket, otherwise false, no spacing. The bracket line, however, is this little guy right there. If you like him being on the same line as the last bit, you want true. Otherwise, if you like him kind of dangling off at the end, just kind of signifying that this is kind of a group, which I like, you say false. So we're going to do that. Again, your project, do what you want. And yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff in here if you want to take a look through those. What else do we have? Go to my prettier over here. Trailing comma. This is going to be for ES5. I don't know what the other options are. Definitely in here. Let's see. Trailing comma. All ES5 or none. So this is just how you would do this. So that's that. Let's see. Backwards arrow, semi-quote. Use tabs. Use tabs. This is going to be false. So I just like using spaces. You can see here these little dots in my code. That's the editor saying that. It's just to show that it's a space instead of a tab. I like spaces. And the last thing we're going to get into in a minute. So now we have those lint things. So yarn lint. Let's see what happens. All right, we have an error. Failed to load plugin TypeScript ESLint declared cannot find module TypeScript. Go back to package. We look for TypeScript. We only have these two spots, TypeScript, TypeScript. We don't actually have TypeScript in our project, even though we're using it, which is really weird. The probably VS Code has a way to figure it out. So yarn add dev TypeScript. Let it do its thing. And once I'm installed, try running yarn lint again. Now we can see we're getting some errors and everything. This is really cool. So like this one, for instance, ref is declared never used. So if we follow this here, we could see, yeah, we're not using ref. Why import it? Get rid of that. We could bring that on the same line, save that, and that's all done. And you could also see, you saw that just now, if I save this, it automatically fixes like the spacing issues. And this is all 2 spaces. And if I wanted back in Prettier, I usually do 4. So if I save 4 now, I go back to our app, save here, and it all updates to being 4 spaces. Really nice. So let's see what else we have. We have a component alert, should be multi-word. They really push for having multi-words for your components, so it'd be like alert, whatever. But I don't mind the single one, so instead of it being an error, let's copy this. Let's go to our Eslint, and we have our rules down here. And we'll say view multi-word component names, and this is just going to be a warning. Only want it to be a warning. Run it again, and you can see we have 6 problems and 0 warnings. And if we rerun it, we have 2 errors and 3 warnings. Again, these warnings are the alert, to do, fly out. Those are all they should be multi-words, and they're not. It's fine. We also have a ref is used, but imported, but never used. Perfect. And there's always this little squiggle, because it's going to tell you that it should be a multi-word. And that's really cool. I just saved that and updated everything in here. Made it so nice. And then there's this duplicate title thing. So this one is pretty cool. This one I want to show you. So we've been doing this where we have a title and we're updating that title and we're just trying to separate props from everything. But since we're using Pina and we're getting all of that from the store, we don't have to do this anymore. We could actually get rid of the title and on before mounts. If we come up here, we can see on before mounts, it's no longer used. And that is everything for that, it seems. And for down here, the V model is no longer a model. It's going to be a value, and it's going to be props.title. And since we don't have the title here anymore, instead of sending that in, we want to send in the event and target.value. Now this is an interesting bit here. So we have this, the value doesn't exist on event target. Well, this is a TypeScript thing. And we can get around this by telling it exactly what the event target is, which is an input, right? We're going to wrap this in parentheses. I'm going to say this is as an HTML element. Let's see, input. HTML input element. I think that was it. Yep. So now that squiggle goes away, and I'll prove to you that it still exists there. So if we start typing in value, there it is, value. And how nice is that? And so that is working. We can go ahead and prove that. But let's run the linter again. And it's just 3 warnings, which is just the multi-words. So nice. Now, one more thing I want to show you guys. And you can see here, this splits it up like this. This is all from the Prettier and stuff like that. So save it and automatically does it. There are ways around that if you don't like that. I don't mind it. It works. And it's a little bit cleaner, in my opinion. And there's that bracket thing again, right? Breaks everything onto its own line so it's easier to read. Not everything, you know, but when things get a little too long, it starts to help out. Okay, so those are all of those. Now another thing I want to do, like I was saying earlier, if you look up here, we have these direct relative paths. These are not direct, these are relative paths. So I would like to have it, instead of that, maybe like an @ sign, and then go and find that the way we want to. And that's going to be done in, I believe, our TS config. So TS config. Actually, no. Yes, but in a second. So we have here, this is our Vite config. And if we come down just before test, we're going to have a resolve down here at the bottom. This is going to be an object, comma. We'll say resolve, and we have an alias. And that alias is going to be the @ sign, and this is going to directly work with file. Let me just grab this Vite. What is it again? Yeah, file URL to path. File URL to path. It's going to take a new URL, and that's going to point to resources/JS. And then we just want to say it's going to be the import.meta.url. And you can see we don't have the, did it bring it in? No. So we're going to import those. Import file to path and URL, and that's from URL. Now watch everything up here. All these will become singles. This will fix the spacing. Save it. It didn't. It's because we're not in those files, right? We're not in the JS, the resources.js file. So we can actually just change that ourselves if we really wanted to. And yeah, there we go. All right, so now we have those. Don't need two there. Let me see. Oh, there should have been two there. Oh, you know what it is? That. There we go. Okay, so that's working. However, if we go back here, this still doesn't know what this is. And that's because we need to do the TypeScript config. And this is going to say, I think, paths. And then in here, let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. tsconfig. Yep. This is going to be the @ symbol. And then we want a wildcard. And that's going to go here and say .resources/JS. And don't forget your wildcard there. And that's everything. Now we come back here. It knew exactly what that was. And this will actually help us a lot here. So we have this use store. And if we have it imported automatically, you can see it already. I'm pointing at the screen, like you guys see what I'm pointing. It has the @ sign already. So if we click enter, it automatically pulls it in the correct spot. As for flyout, we can have this, components, and it knows where it is. So instead of having relative paths, we can have absolute paths. Same thing here. @ components. Let's do @ /components/ do icon. Don't need the .view. Oh, you do need the .view. All right, and there you go. So that's pretty cool. Now let's see yarn lint again, see if anything else changed or if we have any issues. Everything is running perfectly. And I didn't forget about that whole store thing. Let's do that. So yarn dev. Okay, and then if we go to to-do.test, and we come over here, we inspect and go check out view. We have to-do title. It says some new task, and we're using just the props here. And we can update this to anything we want. It doesn't change here yet, but we blur it, automatically updates. So that's fantastic. And if we look in our Pina, our to-dos, we have the first one, and the title is new. So that all works. We didn't need that extra ref, and it cleans it up again just a little bit more. And that's going to do it for us. So, find my face, do a little of that. All right, it's time for the YouTube stuff. If you liked what you saw, oh, just found another thing. So, not yet. Don't go yet. So back over here in our application, our package. So we have this, the lint thing, right? So we're running through Eslint and we're checking JS and Vue files, but we have a lot of TS files. We don't want to forget about those. And just adding that is going to show us all of these things down here. So if I run lint again, it's going to run through. It's going to say we have 8 problems. 5 of those are errors. And if we look through, this is going to be a lot for our specs, our different tests and whatnot. So here, we have a store, but it's never read. It's written to, but it's never read. So we want to delete this. And if we come down here, we can see that we set up a store. We don't use this anywhere, right? So it's just not anywhere. So we get rid of that. And that means that we can actually get rid of this as well. That's one thing. If we come back to homepage, that's this one. This is an Pina has one as well. I mean, our to-do title. We have Pina, but we never read from it. So we don't need to set up any kind of value for that. We just use it. And that fixes that as well. Save that. And what else do we have in our utilities? We have this argument, and it doesn't like having any, right? So instead, we can change this to unknown. This could be anything. We save it, and again, it changes things around for us to make it a little bit easier for us to read, which is just so nice. Run this lint again. Let's see if I missed one. And we have 2 errors now. V-test was defined and never used over at this test. So we get rid of that. Save. And this one, another any. So this one is, it's going to be anything. So we could have like a TS ignore here, or I could just say object, just so that we always get it as an object, and that's fine by me. So now we run yarn lint again, and we should just have our warnings. And we do. That's the end of the video. Whew, sorry, almost missed that one. And I was just like, I thought there was more problems, but there was. All right, so that's the end of it. Like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.